Alright, y'all, welcome back to Days of Darkness. Quick shout out to Paul for that awesome intro. I'm going to link some of his stuff down below so you guys can check out his work. Buddy, thank you so much, and this review is dedicated to you. I know you said you didn't really want anything returned, but, you know, fuck you. Thank you. But anyways, yeah, so guys, check out some of his stuff, but let's just get into it, man. Return of the Living Dead, Part 1 of CoronaMania. Real quick, whatever you're doing, just happy quarantine. Stay inside, stay safe. Let's try and kill this quick so we can go out and watch movies and collect movies and do whatever the hell you guys like doing outside. I feel like once all this is over, people are gonna appreciate life a lot more because right now kind of sucks. But I hope I can at least recommend some good flicks for you guys like this one here. And yeah, I absolutely recommend this movie. However, I do understand that some people are very picky with their horror, and so something like this is a very light-hearted, intentionally, unintentionally comedic film. What I say by that is I remember watching it on, I watched it yesterday before I had to go to work, and I was thinking to myself, is this a horror comedy? Because I feel like the easy route to go would be to say yes, but to me a horror comedy is something like Shaun of the Dead or Zombieland or Scary Movie or something like that, where it's over the top comedy and it's funny, you know, like it's presented as a comedy with zombies or monsters or whatever the fuck, you know. This really didn't play out like that. You can tell it was intended to be funny, like just some of the things the characters say and the way they interact with each other. You definitely can tell the filmmakers were intending this to be comedic. But I wouldn't call it a horror comedy, strictly because the way these characters are reacting and the things that they are saying and the way they're behaving. If you were to just read this movie out on paper, it's horrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Like, there's nothing really funny about it, but it's the way it's presented, and it's fucking hilarious. This movie is funny as hell, and it's also spooky too, so it's like, you know, what's not to love? But I would definitely say that this is a satire on like 80s culture. You have these punk kids who are all like over the top edgy. Like they're driving around this car in the beginning of the movie, and like it's just like spray painted all these words and like all this profanity and shit, and like it's just on the hood of the car someone just spray painted in red suicide. It's like, holy shit, man. You're going a little over the top with it, but you know, whatever. But yeah, like, and then when shit starts hitting the fan, they're how do you say it? Some of the people's, like Linnea Quigley's character, which by the way, Linnea Quigley, anyways, but yeah, so she's like all like, I remember she's like in the graveyard and she's like, have you ever fantasized what it's like to die? And the dude sitting next to her, who's actually Spider, his name's Spider in this film, and he is also Demon in Friday the 13th Part 5, which I really enjoy that. Tom Matthews is in this, and he was obviously Tommy Jarvis in Part 6. So, and then there's another guy in here that was in Part 5. A lot of Friday the 13th people in here, which is always good. I got no problem with that. But anyway, so she's sitting there, she's like, have you ever fantasized about being killed? And he's just like, not really. So she's just like this little edgelord chick, and you know, she's like getting naked, and like she's over the top edgy and just weird, and she presents herself as such, and then when shit starts hitting the fan, she's very much not like that, and she's just reduced to a scared teenager, which when you're growing up and anyone, like I can relate to that, anyone who's like not getting naked in a graveyard, but but no, like not that type of shit, but just like putting up a front and being overtly something you're not. Like I think everyone who, you know, everyone's everyone was a teenager at some point, and to a certain degree, I think we all kind of did that. So it's just a satirical take at that, and like, there's also commentary about the government and like the boss employee relationship and all that shit, and how all of that just kind of deteriorates when something as catastrophic as this happens. Now, I'm sure someone would say, "Oh, you're reading too much into it," but I don't know. That's the message I got from it. But in here, this disc, I try to have the menu here as a background, and this disc has a bad habit of going to sleep on me really quick. But anyways, I'll just ignore that from now on. But anyways, so let's get right into it. Let's just go into spoilers. But yeah, like I said, if you like cheesy, campy horror movies, you'll love this. If you love zombies, you'll love this. And if you love comedy, you'll love this. I think this can appeal to a lot of different people, especially if you like unintentional comedy. The comedy in this is, like I said, intentional, but yeah, I'm gonna stop going on about that. Anyways, so spoilers. Quick little rundown about how this movie is set up. Frank and Freddy are... Let me get this pulled up. I'm not just reading off IMDb, it's just where they work. I cannot remember it. The medical supply warehouse. So it's basically these two dudes. One of them is kind of the underboss. He's not the owner of it, but he's the underboss. Shout out to Bad Luck Fale. No one's gonna get that watching this, but yeah. Anyway, so he's the underboss, and he's kind of taking Freddy around, just showing him all the shit. Basically, their job is to ship off corpses and skeletons and all sorts of like cadavers to whoever needs them, scientists, schools, whatever. So that's their job. And he basically tells him that these tanks that were lost by the US government are actually in the basement, and they house bodies from the events of what inspired Night of the Living Dead, because in this series, in this universe, Night of the Living Dead was a film. It's acknowledged as a film, and that movie is based off the events that happened, and they have the bodies in the tanks from those events. So basically, what ends up happening is he shows them. You get to see the beginning stages of Tarman before he actually becomes Tarman, and you know, some of the U.S. government satirical commentary starts here, and he's like, "Oh, well, what if they open?" He's like, "Oh, are you kidding me, kid? These are U.S. made, best in the world." And then he smacks it, and the thing just fucking breaks, and oh god, you get to see Tarman just melt and like become, you know, Tarman. And yeah, disgusting shit. They pass out, and essentially it brings to life everything in that building. And so from that point, they call up the head boss, and his name is, I can never remember, Bert. Bert, you're shouting again, Bert. Anyways, my inner Ernie came out there for a second. But anyways, so he comes up and, you know, he's like, "Oh, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, I'm gonna go out of business now because no one was supposed to know about those tanks, and now obviously, you know, it's out. So what the hell are we gonna do?" And it unleashes everything. You see like these dogs that were split in half, and that thing's alive, and that's super sad because this dog's just like, this like half dog is just like crying, and they hit it with a hammer. It's like, oh god. It's just sad. But again, the way they do it, it's like you can't, if you're fucked up like me, you can't help but like laugh at it. But anyways, so they end up well, not killing, they have to cut up Yellow Man, who breaks out of his little fridge thing that he's in, or they let him out. And then, yeah, they spike him in the head. It doesn't work, and they're like, "What the hell? That works in the movies all the time." Which I'll get into that because I love how they do zombies in this universe. It's really cool. But anyways, so they end up cutting him up. They go to their coroner friend, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to first they tell him that it's weasels. They're like, hey, we need you to burn up these wild weasels. And he's like, are you fucking crazy? That's mean. That's so cruel. And then they show him it's the arm comes out and tries to rip his leg apart, and so they burn him up. It goes out of the chimney, and that unleashes the living dead in the graveyard where these kids are partying, which is funny in the beginning. Like, that's all these kids want to do. They're just like, where can we go to party? I want to party. It's like just total stereotypical punk shithead kids, but it's cool, and I can relate to that because I was one of those at one point. Didn't like partying too much, but I was a shithead. But anyways, so so yeah, and then the dead come to life, and shit just hits the fan. It ends up that Frank and Freddy are infected by this, and they're basically dead, but they're still alive. Like, they can talk like I'm talking right now, but their heart's not beating. They're starting to get pale. Essentially, they just rot while being alive, and it's like, that's probably the saddest shit, because this group of punks are actually Freddy's friends. I forgot to mention that, and they were his girlfriend's just like crying as he's literally like, he's rotting from the inside. He's like, and he's feeling all of it, and it's just, again, it's like, is this a comedy? Because holy shit, that's like super intense. But yeah, obviously Spider is great in this flick. I love that actor. I can't remember his name for the life of me. Let's see here. Miguel Nunez Jr. I love that guy. He's always near the end of the film. He's driving with Bert. He's driving with Bert, and Bert's freaking out, basically having a panic attack. He's like, "Get out, you stupid honky!" Like, he's great. I love Spider in this. He's incredible. And yeah, really everyone's hilarious in this. Intentionally, unintentionally hilarious. Linnea Quigley, her whole claim to fame is basically telling Spider about how she fantasizes about being ripped apart by a bunch of old men, and that ends up happening to her. Which is weird, because she does end up coming back as a naked zombie, which, not complaining. But anyways, very, like, unflawed for being someone who's, like, ripped apart. Like, her body's not messed up or anything. But yeah, so just lots of really cool moments. I'm not gonna go over all the second and third act. I want you guys to at least be able to experience that. I mean, I'm spoiling a lot of shit, obviously, but I don't want to do a whole plot rundown. If you want that, just watch the movie. But anyways, just some of the things I really like about this. Well, a quick flaw, which is not even a flaw. It's like, this film's very plot holy. Like, it's just... But what's beautiful about it is it doesn't present itself as serious whatsoever. And they balance that line between horror and comedy so well, like, that it's like you almost kind of forgive it. It's like some of this stuff doesn't make sense at all, but it's like, it's not a serious film, so quit being such a fucking... Now, if something like Train to Busan, which I'll be recording, had some shit like this, or reviewing, I should say, if that had stuff like it in this movie, I'd be like, what the hell? But obviously that's a very different film. But anyways, we're not talking about Train to Busan. ADHD, leave me alone. But anyways, some things I really liked, and then we'll get in my kill of the film, and we'll wrap up. The zombies in this are... First of all, I appreciate that they actually say the word zombie. I'll get into that in another review, why I can't stand that they don't say the fucking word zombie. Just say it. They're zombies. It's like every zombie film, it's like they live in a universe where zombie movies just don't exist. It's like, what? Just say zombies. But that has always irritated me and a lot of other horror fans. But the zombies are extremely smart in this. Like, usually, I mean, I'm all for Night of the Living Dead and that style of zombie, just kind of like walking around and bumping into shit, and all they know is eat. Nothing wrong with that, obviously, but these zombies are like opening up doors. They can talk. They're like, obviously Tarman, he's like, brains. That's the only thing he really says. That and more brains. But there's a woman, a zombie woman who's like in half, and they tie her up, and she basically explains that the reason they eat brains is so they don't feel the pain of literally being a living dead person. It's like the concept of zombies in this is really cool, and like they actually explain a lot of shit. And I really like this. This might actually be my favorite kind of zombie. Essentially, it's because like there's really no logic behind them eating people. In like a lot of zombie movies, it's just they just eat people. Get over it. All right, weird cut there. Zombies are cool. You get it. So, anyways, already kind of touched on the unintentional comedy. Don't need to talk about that anymore. So let's just get into the kill of the movie. So, obviously, it's a zombie flick. Zombie flicks are always going to be bloody and gory, and the stuff you come to a zombie film for. So this one's no exception. It's not a complete splatterfest, but it's what we do get is very, very cool, and yeah, really the one that really sticks out to me. This isn't my kill of the film, but as far as practical effects, this is the one that stood out to me. Not as much as my kill of the film, but I guess we'll call this an honorable mention. When one of the zombies goes into the paramedics into the paramedics the ambulance. Why can I not think of that word? When the zombie kind of crawls into the fucking ambulance, and he grabs the radio and he's like, "Send more paramedics." Right before he goes in there, you see him gnawing on the paramedic's head, and the way they made this like dummy for the zombie to eat out of his head, literally he's just like scooping out like brains. It's very gross. I don't know why I think that's so cool, but I do. Fuck you. Uh, the way it looks, it's like it's literally like just a hoop is out of his head. Like this zombie basically made a bowl out of this dude's head, and he's literally just like, ooh, it's fucking gross as hell and awesome. But yeah, lots of really cool practical effects. The makeup's really cool. Linnea Quigley's character, after she becomes a zombie, has this really fucked up looking face. Well, and I like how they shoot her because it's not just a full on, like you can't always see it so clearly, so it makes it kind of actually pretty scary. Her face is all fucked up, and you definitely get some cool shots with that. And yeah, like just a lot of cool. I love the yellow man and how the animatronics, when he's like, they saw off his head, so it's literally just his head like trying to bite it, whatever the fuck he can, and really cool shit. I'm rambling, but I nerd out for stuff like this. And yeah, that leads me into Tarman. Tarman's obviously the most iconic part of this film. And I'm kind of sad he doesn't make an appearance in parts 2 and 3, and why would he if they nuke the place? But I don't know. I miss Tarman in the other movies, but those are still rad as well, and I'll talk about those at some point. But anyways, so Tarman looks amazing. Just a slimy, gross, melted flesh zombie. He's basically a skeleton. And I don't know the actor who is in that suit, but props to him, because he's just kind of like, the way he moves is very like weird, and obviously he's not a normal human being by any means, but just the way he walks around and he like moves his body and everything, really cool. And he gets easily one of the best zombie kills in this flick. So I would say like the big hulking like punk guy. They all go in the basement to find what's her name? Let me see here. Oh yeah, Tina. I don't know why I didn't remember her name, but yeah. So they're looking for Tina, and he goes down there and he's like, and he's all like angry all the time. Like he's just, again, stereotypical teenage role. He's just all fucking like Tina, where the fuck are you? And he runs in the Tarman, and my kill of the movie, Tarman just looks at him and just goes, brains, and just takes a bite, and you see it just takes a bite out of this dude's head like it's a fucking apple. It's so gross. It's not the most over the top gore in the world, but just seeing his head get bitten into like that is gnarly as hell, and just makes Tarman that much more cool. So that'll do it. Return of the Living Dead, highly recommend it. It's a fantastic zombie movie, fantastic comedy. And yeah, check it out, guys. I'm gonna play the kick-ass intro that Paul Dixon made for me, and they're gonna be on the Days of Darkness videos from now on. So we'll leave you with that. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good rest of your day. All right.